In the endless silence of space, laughter echoed between the stars. It was not human laughter, but the cold, mocking sound of alien voices carried through digital channels. Across 1,000 systems, the Galactic Council shared recordings of old human ships drifting helplessly through debris fields. They called them relics of a primitive world, floating monuments to a species that reached too high and fell too fast. To the aliens, humans were only a story for children, a warning told before sleep. Do not become like the Earthborn, they said, for they built metal dreams that burned their sky. Inside vast alien academies, cadets laughed while studying the last human warships footage. Rust, fire, and panic filled their screens. Every blast from human cannons looked weak next to alien plasma storms. Every defense shield flickered and died within seconds. To the young officers of the new galactic order, humanity was entertainment, a joke carved into history books, a reminder of arrogance defeated. But far from those shining alien cities, beyond trade routes and communication networks, there was silence. In the dark orbit around the old gas giant Jupiter, hidden within its magnetic storms, a forgotten shipyard slept. It had been abandoned for more than a century, its metal walls scarred by radiation and time. Frozen workers floated in their suits, tools still in their hands, silent witnesses to an age that vanished. Among those broken hangars rested a shape wrapped in shadow, the HSS Valiant, the last destroyer built by human hands. Its hull was half buried in ice, its reactors cold, its nameplate scratched and faded. Yet deep within its core, a single light blinked once, faint and red, like a heartbeat refusing to die. On a distant moon outpost, Captain Mira Solon sat alone inside a ruined control room. Her breath fogged the cracked visor of her helmet. Her hands trembled as she powered up an ancient terminal. She had spent years searching for one last hope, one last piece of Earth's legacy that could still fight back. When her screen flickered to life, she saw the signal, the faint pulse from Jupiter's orbit. Her eyes widened, her heart raced. "The Valiant," she whispered, "it's still there." For years Mira had lived with the weight of humanity's fall. She had seen the colonies crumble, watched alien fleets orbit Earth like vultures circling bones. But she never forgot the stories told by old veterans, about one ship that never surrendered. They said its crew sealed themselves inside and sent the ship into hiding before the final invasion. Some called it a myth, others a legend, but Mira believed. Because belief was all humanity had left. Back in the council chambers, the alien commanders toasted to another century of peace. They did not know that far beyond their reach, a human signal had just been sent. They did not know that the ghosts they mocked were stirring again. In their arrogance, they thought they owned the stars. But the stars remembered different stories. Stories of human explorers who faced death with laughter and built ships with blood and dreams. Inside the frozen hull of the Valiant, systems began to awaken one by one. Lights flickered across empty corridors. Old AI cores whispered fragments of forgotten commands. "Power restoration, 30% complete," said a voice that had not spoken in 100 years. Dust floated like snow as engines hummed softly beneath layers of frost. The ship remembered too, every battle, every loss, every scream of its fallen crew. It remembered the day the stars burned over Earth. It remembered the order to disappear. And now, it remembered the signal of its captain's bloodline. Mira Solon stood on the deck of her small shuttle as she approached the dark side of Jupiter. Lightning flashed through its storms, painting her face in blue light. When the massive shadow of the destroyer came into view, her breath caught in her chest. The old ship was bigger than she had imagined, majestic even in ruin. She whispered softly, "You waited for us." As her shuttle connected with the ancient docking port, the doors hissed open. Cold air rushed out like a sigh from the past. Mira stepped inside, her boots echoing through silent halls. She reached the command bridge, wiped dust from the control panels, and pressed a single button. "Human command access, granted," the ship's voice said, deeper now alive. Mira smiled through tears. "Then let's remind the galaxy who we are." And somewhere across the stars, as alien fleets continued to mock humanity, a faint human signal blinked on their long-range scanners. They laughed again, thinking it was another ghost from the old days. But deep within the Valiant, A heartbeat turned into a roar. Engines ignited, metal screamed, and the ship began to rise from its icy grave. The laughter across the stars was about to end. The ship trembled as its ancient reactors came back to life. Inside the silent corridors of the HSS Valiant, lights flickered, sparks danced, and long-dead systems began to hum. Dust lifted from control panels like smoke from a long-forgotten battlefield. Captain Mira Solon walked slowly through the bridge, her footsteps echoing between the walls of steel. She touched the old captain's chair, the leather cracked but still strong, a symbol of something humanity never truly lost: resilience. For the first time in 100 years, human boots stood on the bridge of a warship again. "Ship AI, identify yourself," Mira said softly, her voice steady yet filled with awe. The deep machine tone replied, "Designation, HSS Valiant, last active cycle, year 2339, status, incomplete repairs." She smiled faintly. Not incomplete anymore. The holographic interface flickered to life, showing the galaxy map filled with enemy markers. Dozens of red dots blinked around human space. Alien fleets, patrols, and colonies that mocked Earth for centuries. Each dot represented humiliation, each a scar on human pride. Mira connected her datapad to the console, feeding in her encrypted activation codes. Authorization accepted, Captain Mira Solon, genetic lineage confirmed. The voice paused, as if remembering something. "You carry the blood of Commander Elias Solon, the last captain of this vessel." She closed her eyes briefly. "He was my grandfather." "Then humanity has returned," the AI said, and for a moment, the ship seemed to breathe again. Engines powered up with a thunderous hum that shook loose decades of dust. Outside, Jupiter's storms rolled like angry oceans as the destroyer rose through the clouds of ammonia and lightning. Alien satellites detected movement, but dismissed it as static interference. No one could believe that a human signal could come from that dead zone. Not yet. Mira stood on the command bridge as the stars came into view. Her heart pounded with a mix of fear and pride. The ship's sensors detected approaching signals, an alien patrol fleet, small but armed. 3 cruisers and a carrier, laughing over the comms about the ghost signal they were tracking. Their words crackled across the channel. "Let's capture this toy ship. Maybe the humans left us another museum piece." Mira remained silent, her fingers tracing the cold metal of the console. She whispered, "Let them come." The Valiant's weapon systems roared awake, cannons aligned, railguns calibrated. Each weapon still carried the signature of human engineering, imperfect yet fierce. They had been built not for beauty but for survival. As the alien ships closed in, their scanners flickered with confusion. "Unknown heat signature detected," one commander shouted. "Impossible, humans don't have active vessels," another replied. But before they could finish their analysis, the Valiant fired its first shot. A blue streak of kinetic energy ripped through space. The projectile moved faster than light sensors could track. It struck the lead cruiser in the center, tearing it in half like paper. The explosion lit up the void with a flash so bright that nearby moons reflected its glow. The alien voices turned from arrogance to panic. "It's a trap. The humans are alive." But it was already too late. Myra's eyes glowed under the reflection of her screens. Every movement of her hands was precise, calm, determined. The Valiant danced between plasma fire, its armor deflecting shot after shot. Its AI synchronized perfectly with her commands, like a ghost remembering its purpose. One by one, the alien ships fell, burning wreckage spinning into Jupiter's shadow. When silence finally returned, the Valiant floated alone, surrounded by drifting metal and dying light. Mira took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. "Valiant, status report," she said. "Minor damage to lower hull. Energy reserves at 71%. All enemy vessels destroyed." She exhaled slowly. "Then let the galaxy know we're still here." The AI's voice deepened, resonating through every corridor. "Signal transmission ready." Mira gave a single command, "Broadcast." A pulse of energy spread across the void, a human signal that hadn't been heard in generations. It carried one message, one truth. We are humanity, and we have not forgotten. Across the nearby systems, alien scanners picked up the signal. Officers froze. Scientists double-checked their instruments. Some laughed nervously, claiming it was just static, but their laughter felt hollow. Because deep inside, every one of them remembered the stories their ancestors told. The ones about human vengeance. About ships that burned stars and captains who never surrendered. The Valiant moved forward, engines glowing like a heartbeat in the darkness. Jupiter faded behind it, replaced by a horizon of endless stars. In that moment, humanity was no longer a memory or a joke. It was a whisper of steel returning from the grave. And that whisper would soon become a roar that the entire galaxy would hear. The alien patrol never made it home. Their last transmission was only static and distant screams echoing through space. At first, the Galactic Council dismissed it as a sensor error. But then, more reports came. Faint human energy traces near Jupiter. No one wanted to believe it, because the idea of humanity rising again was impossible. The aliens had spent centuries laughing at humans, calling them extinct dreamers. But deep inside, a quiet fear began to grow. The kind of fear that spreads faster than fire. Far away, on the bridge of the HSS Valiant, Captain Mira Solon watched the empty radar. Her reflection glowed in the cold blue light of the holographic screen. She looked tired, yet her eyes burned with purpose. Her voice was calm as she spoke. "Valiant, begin long-range scan." "Scanning," replied the AI, its tone carrying a low hum like thunder beneath her words. "Detection confirmed. Alien fleet approaching from the Beta Rim. 27 vessels, heavy armor." Mira whispered softly. "So they're finally coming." She stood at the center of the bridge, her hands behind her back. To anyone watching, she looked like a ghost from an old war, one soldier against an empire. But she didn't need an army, she had the Valiant. The ship was more than metal and circuits. It was a living memory of human pain and pride. Every plate of steel carried the story of survival. Every engine hum echoed the heartbeat of a dying world refusing to stay silent. The alien commander, Admiral Krivak, watched the human signal on his screen. He was an old reptilian war veteran with a scar across his crest. His crew laughed at the faint reading. "A human ship? In this age? Captain, that's ancient debris." Krivak grinned with sharp teeth. "Then let us burn their ghost one last time." Their fleet advanced, cutting through the void like a wall of fire. Hundreds of plasma cannons charged, casting red light across the cold darkness. To them, it was an easy victory, a chance to mock the legend of humanity one more time. On the Valiant, Mira didn't flinch. Her voice steady. "Prepare weapons, activate cloak protocols." "Cloaking engaged," said the AI. Energy reserves at 68%. The ship vanished into the void, its hull bending light around itself. The alien fleet arrived moments later, scanning and shouting across channels. Nothing on sensors, no heat trace, no hull signature. Krivak frowned, his voice low. "Ghost or not, something is here." Then the space ahead of them rippled like water under pressure. From the darkness, the Valiant appeared, its metal glowing faintly with red light. Its cannons already locked on target. Myra's voice echoed through the alien comms, distorted and calm. "You mocked us once, now listen." The next second, silence turned into chaos. The Valiant's railguns fired a storm of kinetic slugs. Each round cut through alien shields as if they were made of air. One cruiser exploded instantly, another lost power and drifted into its ally, tearing both apart. Krivak's eyes widened. "Impossible, that's human tech." But the Valiant kept firing, calm and relentless. Inside the command bridge, Myra's hands moved in rhythm with the ship. Every shot was a heartbeat, every explosion a reply to centuries of humiliation. The AI's tone grew sharper. Enemy fleet disoriented, shields collapsing. "Continue firing," Mira said, her voice cold as steel. The Valiant spun through the debris field, its thrusters flaring blue against the void. It was not just fighting, it was dancing. A ghost reborn in light and fury. Within minutes, the mighty alien formation was in ruins. Only Admiral Krivak's flagship remained, shields barely holding. He looked at the human vessel on his screen, smoke rising around him. "Who are you?" he demanded. Mira appeared on his main display, her figure calm, her eyes unwavering. "I am Captain Mira Solon of Earth," she said. "Tell your council." Humanity remembers. Before he could reply, the Valiant fired one final shot. The alien flagship erupted into light, fragments scattering into eternal darkness. The AI reported, enemy presence eliminated, no survivors detected. Mira stared at the fading light, her voice quiet. They'll come for us now. Yes, Captain, the AI replied, and they will learn fear. Outside, the wreckage floated silently across the void, glowing faintly like candles in a graveyard. The Valiant drifted forward through the remains, engines whispering softly. For the first time in centuries, humanity had spoken to the stars again, not with words, but with fire. And the galaxy, once filled with laughter, began to tremble. The destruction of Admiral Krivak's fleet spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Alien networks that once mocked human signals now trembled as the news replayed again and again. A single human destroyer had erased 27 ships in minutes. No one wanted to believe it, yet the wreckage spoke louder than words. The laughter that once filled the halls of the Galactic Council was gone, replaced by fear and silence. In those halls, the alien leaders shouted over each other, demanding answers. How can humans return? We ended them centuries ago, one roared. Another whispered, perhaps we never ended them at all. For every proud empire, the thought of human vengeance was unbearable, so they decided to crush it before it grew. Every fleet, every warship, every weapon of their alliance was ordered toward the Sol system. The galaxy prepared for war. Far from their noise, the HSS Valiant drifted beyond Jupiter's orbit. Its hull glowed faintly in the sun's reflection, scarred but alive. Captain Mira Solon stood at the bridge window, watching the dark horizon. She knew the response would come. She had counted on it. Her voice was calm but firm. Valiant, status. The AI replied. Weapons at 80%. Energy reserves stabilizing. Minor hull fractures repaired. Good, she said. Because the real fight hasn't even started. Her crew, small and loyal, worked quietly around her. Engineers tightened power conduits. Pilots recalibrated targeting systems. They were not soldiers born for war. They were survivors who refused extinction. To them, the Valiant was more than a ship. It was home. And home was something worth defending. A siren blared softly through the bridge. Multiple warp signatures detected, said the AI. Mira turned, eyes narrowing. How many? Hundreds, came the reply. Main fleet approaching, estimated arrival in 6 minutes. The crew froze for a heartbeat. 6 minutes until every alien gun in the sector would open fire. Mira took a deep breath and whispered. Then 6 minutes to make history. The sky around Jupiter tore open with light as alien ships burst from hyperspace. Their formations stretched across the void like a steel storm. Hundreds of cannons glowed red, charging for the first volley. To them, it was the end of the human ghost story. To Mira, it was the beginning of humanity's legend. Valiant, engage defense pattern A9, she ordered. Shields flared to life, surrounding the destroyer in a shimmering blue field. The first wave of plasma struck, a storm of fire that lit up the darkness. Every impact shook the ship, metal screamed, sparks flew across the bridge. Yet the Valiant held firm, its shields bending but never breaking. Shields at 70%, the AI warned. Return fire, Mira commanded. The Valiant unleashed its wrath, railguns roared, and energy torpedoes cut through space like lightning. Alien cruisers exploded one after another, turning the battlefield into a graveyard of glowing debris. But for every ship that fell, 10 more took its place. They surrounded the human destroyer from all sides, firing in unison. The void became a storm of colors, blue shields, red plasma, golden explosions. Still, the Valiant moved like a living creature, dodging, spinning, striking back. Myra's voice stayed calm, guiding every maneuver, every shot. She was no longer just a captain. She was the soul of humanity's fight. Critical hit on enemy flagship, reported the AI. Then finish them, Mira replied. The destroyer charged its main cannon, a weapon that hadn't been fired since the fall of Earth. Energy built within its core, light flooding the bridge until it was blinding. Fire, she said. A single beam erupted, white and pure, slicing through the heart of the alien armada. Dozens of ships vaporized instantly, the explosion spreading like a sun being born. For a moment, everything was silent. Only the hum of the Valiant's engines echoed across the void. Then the remaining alien ships broke formation and fled into hyperspace. The mighty galactic fleets that once ruled the stars were running from one human destroyer. Mira stood at the window, watching their trails vanish into darkness. Her voice was soft. They thought we were gone. Now they'll remember. Enemy fleets retreating, said the AI. Mira nodded. Not retreating. Regrouping. They'll be back with more. Yes, Captain, the AI agreed. But next time, the galaxy will know the truth. The Valiant drifted silently among the wreckage, its lights flickering through the smoke and ruin. Humanity had fired its first shot in a new war. And this time, it would not be the one that ended in silence. This time, the galaxy would learn what fear truly meant. The news of the great battle spread faster than light. Every communication relay, every trading hub, every hidden frequency echoed with one name: the Valiant. In cantinas, markets, and war rooms, alien voices whispered about the ship that came back from the dead. A single human destroyer that faced an armada and lived. Some said it was a myth, some said it was a weapon built by gods. But deep down, every being across the stars knew the truth. Humanity had returned, and the universe would never be the same. The Galactic Council tried to hide the truth. They called it a data malfunction, a sensor illusion, a pirate trick. But the wreckage floating near Jupiter told a different story. Thousands of destroyed alien hulls shimmered under sunlight, silent proof of one ship's defiance. Entire fleets went dark. Commanders refused to enter Sol's territory. Even the boldest generals hesitated before uttering the word Earth. In the hidden systems beyond the rim, fear became a new language. Children of alien races asked their parents if humans were real, and the parents, who once laughed at the old tales, no longer had an answer. Smugglers and traders began selling recordings of the Valiant's battle, shaky videos showing flashes of light, explosions, and a human voice saying, "We are still here." Those three words became a storm that no empire could contain. Meanwhile, aboard the HSS Valiant, Captain Mira Solon stood alone in the observation deck. She looked out at the endless black ocean of stars. Her reflection shimmered in the glass, her expression calm but weary. She had become the face of a reborn species, the spark that reignited a dead flame. Yet behind her calm eyes, she knew the war had only begun. "Valiant," she said quietly. "Status." The AI's deep voice answered. "Damage minimal, shields stable, morale undefined." Mira smiled faintly. "That's one way to say we're still breathing." Her small crew gathered near the console, listening as news frequencies played intercepted alien chatter. "Entire fleets are retreating," said one engineer in disbelief. "They're afraid," another whispered. "The ones who used to enslave us are afraid." Mira turned to them, her voice low. "Fear is powerful, but it fades. We must make sure they remember why they feared us." She pointed to the star map, hundreds of red markers flashing in alien space. "Every one of those systems built its glory on human ashes," she said. "Now we make them see the cost." The AI interrupted softly. "Incoming transmission. Encrypted source. Unknown origin." Mira frowned. "Play it." Static filled the bridge. Then a deep alien voice spoke, slow and heavy. "To whoever commands the human ship, surrender your vessel. The Council offers mercy." Mira laughed quietly, a sound both bitter and proud. "Mercy," she repeated. "The same mercy you showed our world." She leaned closer to the mic, her tone sharp as a blade. "Tell your council this. Humanity doesn't surrender, not to gods, not to monsters." The transmission cut, but the silence that followed was more powerful than any response. Across the galaxy, the alien council gathered in secret. Generals and senators stared at holograms of the human warship. They had all studied the humans of the past. They knew that once humanity found a reason to fight, it never stopped. And now, they feared that reason had been found again. One general whispered, "If they rebuild their fleets, none of us will stand." Another said quietly, "Then we must destroy them before they rise." Back aboard the Valiant, Mira knew what was coming. The enemy would unite. They would bring their full power. But she also knew something they did not. Humans were never strongest when they had power. They were strongest when they had nothing left to lose. "Valiant," she said, her voice filled with fire. "Prepare long-range jump. Plot course to the outer colonies." "Confirmed," said the AI. "Destination ready." Engines began to hum. Lights rippled across the deck. Mira stood tall, watching the stars align before the jump. Her heart pounded with quiet pride. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity again, but soon, it would learn to respect it. And as the destroyer vanished into hyperspace, the last signal it left behind carried a single message across every system. A message that shook the hearts of those who once called humans extinct. "We are humanity, and we are coming home." The Valiant emerged from hyperspace into the cold silence of the outer colonies. The stars here were dim and distant, the remnants of forgotten human settlements floating among asteroid belts. Ruined stations drifted endlessly, their metal shells cracked and frozen. For centuries, no human voice had spoken in this region. But today, a new sound filled the void, the steady heartbeat of the last human warship. Captain Mira Solon stood at the central console, her reflection shining against the flickering lights. She had traveled far beyond the borders of known space. Her eyes scanned the wreckage of old human colonies, reminders of what was lost. Children once played here, families built homes, but now there was only silence. She felt the weight of 1 billion souls on her shoulders. "Valiant," she whispered. "Begin signal calibration." "Confirmed," replied the AI, its tone steady and low. "Preparing universal transmission array." Outside the ship, panels rotated and unfolded like metal wings. Beams of energy spread out, connecting through the stars. This was no ordinary transmission. It was a call, a declaration, a memory reborn. Mira placed her hand on the glowing interface, her voice soft but firm. "For too long, they erased us from history. They called us extinct, weak, forgotten," she said. "But humanity never dies. We endure, we rebuild, we rise." She took a deep breath. "Valiant, begin recording." The AI confirmed. Recording initiated. Mira looked into the holographic lens, her voice carried across systems. "To every world that still remembers Earth, this is Captain Mira Solon of the human warship Valiant. We are alive." Her tone grew sharper, stronger. "To the Galactic Council, you called us primitive. You laughed when our worlds burned. But we are not ashes. We are fire." The ship's lights dimmed as her voice echoed through every corridor. "To those who once enslaved us, to those who mocked us, this is your warning. Humanity remembers." The AI amplified her signal, spreading it through subspace, bouncing off every satellite, every dead relay, every forgotten beacon. Across the galaxy, alien fleets froze mid-flight as the message reached them. Command centers stopped their operations, soldiers stared at their screens in disbelief. On trading outposts, alien workers listened as the human voice played through static. It was calm, powerful, alive, and it terrified them. For centuries, no one had dared to speak in such a tone to the entire galaxy. But this message wasn't only for the aliens, it was for the survivors too. In hidden caves on ruined moons, small human colonies still existed. People who lived their whole lives in darkness, believing they were the last. When they heard Myra's voice, they fell to their knees and wept. Old soldiers saluted the sky. Children asked their mothers what Earth meant. And for the first time in generations, humanity had hope. They began sending replies, weak but steady. "This is Luna Base 3. When the HSS Valiant vanished into hyperspace, the galaxy held its breath. For the first time in centuries, there was no war, no laughter, no noise. Only silence. A silence heavy with fear, awe, and uncertainty. Every empire, every fleet, every alien race stopped to listen to that quiet void. Because somewhere out there, among the stars, a human ship was still moving. And that truth alone was enough to shake them all. The Galactic Council met in emergency session. Screens flickered across the chamber, showing scattered images of the Valiant. The destroyer cutting through fleets, tearing apart cruisers, leaving nothing but wreckage. The alien senators argued endlessly. Some demanded peace, others called for extermination. But beneath their words was one feeling they could not hide: fear. One elder creature spoke softly, his voice trembling. We woke the ghosts of Earth. No one dared to reply. In the dark sectors, smugglers, miners, and refugees whispered stories. They said the human warship moved like a shadow, appearing wherever tyranny ruled. In one system, it destroyed a slave barge without warning. In another, it transmitted old Earth songs across alien frequencies before vanishing again. To some, it was vengeance, to others, salvation. No one knew where it would appear next, but everyone knew it was watching. Captain Mira Solon stood once more at the command bridge. The stars outside looked peaceful, but she knew the storm was only beginning. Her crew had grown. Humans from lost colonies, hidden survivors, engineers, and pilots who answered her call. Each one carried a memory of pain, loss, and hope. Together, they rebuilt what was forgotten, piece by piece. The Valiant was no longer just one ship. It was a symbol, a banner under which humanity rose again. Valiant, Mira said quietly, report. All systems operational, the AI replied. New transmissions intercepted, multiple alien empires forming joint command. They're afraid, Mira said, and fear makes them dangerous. She turned toward the galaxy map, where countless red markers pulsed across the void. Her eyes burned with calm fire. Let them come, we've lived through worse. As the crew prepared for their next jump, Mira walked to the observation deck. The hum of the engines felt like a heartbeat, strong and steady. She thought of Earth, the blue world now hidden under alien quarantine. She remembered stories of oceans, rain, and open skies, things she had never seen but carried in her soul. She whispered softly, "We're coming home." Across alien space, fleets gathered, generals planned, weapons charged. But none dared to be the first to strike, because they knew what happened to those who did. The recordings of the Valiant's last battles played endlessly in war rooms. Every frame, every explosion, every human voice saying, "We are still here," haunted them. The galaxy that once mocked humanity now lived under its shadow. And so, silence ruled again. Not the silence of peace, but the silence before thunder. The Valiant drifted through the void, its lights dimmed, engines quiet. Some said the ship disappeared forever. Others claimed they saw it near dying suns, protecting broken colonies, guiding lost travelers. To the galaxies beyond, it became a legend, a whisper that moved between stars. The story of a people who refused to die. Generations later, alien children would still ask their elders, "Is it true? Did the humans really return?" And the elders would lower their eyes and answer softly, "Yes, they did." Because even now, somewhere in the dark, a single human warship sails. Its captain watching, its guns silent, its heart unbroken, waiting for the day when the stars would see Earth rise again. And when that day comes, the galaxy will remember. The laughter that once echoed across the stars had ended. And in its place, there was only respect, and the silence that followed.